To Suzanne Evans, I mean, Nigel Farage says UKIP wouldn't ring-fence healthcare spending. How are you going to pay for an increasing ageing population then?
Well, look, I was quite interested to hear, as I said, Emily talking about the amount of money.
But if you don't mind, just answer that specific question, because that's the firm policy to say you're not going to ring-fence health spending.
Let's look at where NHS spending has gone. The Labour Party absolutely chucked money at the NHS with no appreciable improvement in standards. So, for instance, when you came into power in 1997,
let's Suzanne do it, and then I'll let you hang on. Emily,
all the new hospitals.
Emily, wait a minute.
I'd very much like to talk about those new hospitals.
Suzanne, make your point, though, and then Emily will come back.
When you came into power in 1997, there was 130 million being spent on NHS managers. When you left power in 2010, it had gone up to over 130 million, being spent in completely the wrong place, on management, spin doctors, advertising.
Yes, but hang on, Nigel Farage says he wants businessmen to run the NHS, so that's more managers.
Much more efficient,
with higher
way,
pay,
but it
probably.
will also be clinicians as well. And you know,
you'd allow people to take private healthcare vouchers and go off and spend them wherever they like. That's
and you've also said there's plenty of room for cuts in the National Health Service.
There are
plenty of room for
so where would you cut?
Where would you management cuts?
Right, you're going to make middle management cuts, are you? And how much is that going to save you?
We make cuts in the spin doctors.
How much will that save you in middle management cuts?
Well, for a start, you know, and by not doing another reorganisation of the NHS, which and costing another 4 million, 1.6 billion was paid out as a result of the redundancy payments as a result
for
of
people who've been re-employed.
Absolutely, and then they've been re-employed.
So you've got plenty of room for cuts in the NHS. So where are the cuts to the NHS?
Hang on,
UKIP
I've explained where the cuts are going to come.
No, well, hang on a second. You said for middle managers, and how much will that save?
It's trying to raise money by charging people to see our GPs, as Labour peer Lord Winston has said today in the Times and the Mail on Sunday yesterday.
Emily, is that going to help? Do you support the idea of charging it at GPs?
Of course not.
Right.
Of course not.
Is that ever going to become Labour Party policy?
No, it will not be Labour policy.
It won't?
No.
What do you think about charging GPs?
Well, I agree in the principle that healthcare should be free at the point of use. This discussion just highlights the fact of why we need to put healthcare in the hands of healthcare professionals rather than politicians trying to throw brickbats at each other and politicising the NHS. Well, I think we will see that the whole of the debate around privatisation
all the parties are guilty of that, aren't they?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Privatisation is very important because people feel very, very strongly about the idea of keeping
privatisation.
Right,
there is no such thing as privatisation
is it phantom
privatisation
at the point of
Well, thanks to the Liberal Democrat changes that Emily dismissed, we actually reinforced in the NHS Act the central principle of the NHS that it must be healthcare delivered on the basis of need and free at the point of delivery. So that is guaranteed.
I don't want to get...
look, that isn't the main... Emily, you argued about other people interrupting you, so don't interrupt us.
All right.
The principle of... The thing that was wrong with the NHS Act wasn't actually about wholesale privatisation, and you can see that that hasn't actually happened as a result of the NHS.
Some of that was introduced by the Labour. Well, it was under Blair, there's some sort of private provision.
But the problem is the distraction of reorganisation, and I'm afraid to say that UKIP is effectively the anti-NHS party. They would allow people to...
Well, hang on, let Martin finish his comment and then you'll come back.
Your policy is to allow people private healthcare vouchers which they could take off to any...
That's not our policy.
What is your policy on that?
Our policy is to keep the NHS free at the point of contact.
It is not to charge. There'll be no vouchers. There'll be no ability for people to use private healthcare vouchers in the NHS.
I'm not aware that is in our manifesto.
Well, right, not aware is not the same, because we've been through your manifesto a few times and it
undermine local NHS trusts and local NHS services. It's exactly the kind of cherry picking that actually all three of the other Westminster parties said we wanted to avoid.
The issue that I wanted was the role of Monitor, and the role of Monitor, which was to promote competition at the heart of the National Health Service, and that has been the problem. And NHS should not be about competition. NHS should be about us working together. No. It's exactly the sort of thing that happened. Was that there was one organisation called Monitor that we set up, and then under this ridiculous cloak and mirror thing which you did with your bill, was that you changed the role of it completely, and the role of Monitor was to promote competition at the heart of the NHS, and that was the biggest problem. And that was the biggest problem with this bill.
Right.
If it was introduced, then why did you need to have it in the bill?
We're going to leave it there, but some private provision was introduced during the Blair era. Right. But let's finish it there.
Having a long time on health waiting lists, people could get access to private health in order to cut down on...
We've got
You didn't frankly have the balls to put country before party.